everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Cover 4 podcast for week 11 as we're nearing the end of college football and week 2 of the high school football playoffs. I'm Jim Trickett, along with the guy who is the president and CEO and general flunky of RDG Communications, Randy Gibson, out in Provo, Utah, and he's got the OU hoodie on because it's about 50 degrees out in Provo. It's dropped down into the 50s tonight here in Tahlequah, so we're about the same, but it's it's 7:30 as we're taping this on Monday night here in Tahlequah, 6:30 out in Provo, and probably dropping down in the 40s already down out your way.
It is. It's down in the upper 40s already and kind of damp out tonight. So time for the hoodie.
Yeah, it is. It's that time of year as we get ready for OU going out to Provo to take on the Cougars. And you were planning on this thing for a year as far as tailgate and everything. And then the dreaded 6-day advance comes up, and lo and behold, it's going to be an 11 o'clock kick here in Oklahoma. That means it's 10 o'clock in the morning out in Provo. And can you say a little bit of karma as far as planning anything? Anything I try to plan, it blows up in my face. And so, touche to you, sir.
No kidding. Why in the world would you start and have a game when you're on Mountain or West Coast time at noon on the East Coast? I have no idea why anybody would, in their right mind, would do that.
Well, ask Colorado, because that happened to them early in the season.
It did. I remember that. And their fans were saying the same thing we were. Why would you start that at that particular time? But we are trying to make lemonade out of lemons. And we have decided we've got the big tailgate party planned. We had it planned, was going to do it for Saturday before the game and then go down to the game and enjoy. Talked with the neighbors and talked with people in the neighborhood. And, we decided we just didn't want to be up at 7:30 to eat breakfast and then walk down to a game. It's going to be chilly Saturday morning anyway. Right. It'll be in the 40s at kickoff probably. It's only supposed to get to a high of 51, they're saying right now. At least no rain or snow as of now, which is something, as you know, I've been kind of concerned about. Should be a partly cloudy day, pretty clear down low, clouds in the mountains. Should be a beautiful day by the time we get to about halftime for sure in the 50s. But we are going to have our big to-do on Thursday night. Sorry, not Thursday night, Friday night. Okay. Friday night before the game. We've got a big to-do going on here in the neighborhood. And then we're going to come back after the game and reconvene on Saturday afternoon and watch the other games going on for the day. So instead of having one party, we're going to wind up having two. So we're going to make the best of it. We can. Got the BYU and the OU flags already up and flying out this week. Getting the house ready for to entertain everybody. Got the OU stuff up and around everywhere, and I'll have some BYU stuff up later in the week.
And my question to you is there's two guys that unfortunately no longer with us. One of them's your brother, and Joe Don Thornton's the other one. How in the world did those two numbskulls even function out there with no antifreeze.
Glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up next as well. It leads right into what I was fixing to say. Anybody out there listening, they've already posted it on some of the OU boards. I'm going to go post it on OU band alumni boards. There are only 2 bars in the vicinity of Provo. One is a dive somewhere downtown. I can't even tell you where it is, honestly, but I've seen others talk about it. The other one is up at Sundance Resort, about 15 minutes up in the mountains. There are no other bars in this area. The state of Utah itself is very strict. The city of Provo is even stricter than the state of Utah, and the campus of BYU is even stricter than that. So anybody out there thinking they're going to sneak some Sooner Schooner beer on campus to get ready for the game, don't even think about it. Don't even try it. It will not work. All you're going to do is embarrass yourself, embarrass the University of Oklahoma, and probably get your ticket taken away from you if you try to enter the stadium with it. That goes for tobacco. That goes for dipping tobacco. That goes for smoking tobacco. It goes for vaping. Forget it. It's not going to work. Don't try to sneak it in your coat. Don't try. Just forget it. Just enjoy yourself back at your hotel or your Airbnb, wherever you're going to do. Enjoy your after game party in your private place all you want to. If you can find a place to pick any of it up, I might add, because to my knowledge, just so the listeners know, the liquor stores in the state of Utah are run by the state of Utah. They are not individually owned. There is one in Provo, somewhere downtown, right on one of the main drags. Don't know. I couldn't even tell you where it is because I pass by it every now and again, but I don't really pay attention. But that's it. That's the only one you're going to find. So the best thing to do, honestly, is just enjoy your weekend out here, enjoy the beautiful scenery, take it all in, but leave the alcohol and tobacco back in Oklahoma.
Right. And OU won 59-20 over West Virginia. I kind of surprised at that score. I thought it'd be a little closer than that, but
I was pleasantly surprised. Brent Venables said after the game that, in his opinion, that was the most complete game that the team has had this year on all sides of the ball, between offense, defense, and special teams. Everybody played really well overall. But, coaches, Coach V said, we're still not to the level we need to be at when we get ready to enter the SEC looking down the road. We're still not there. We still have a lot of improvement to make, but at least he saw improvement, especially over the last 2 weeks. Speaking of last week, I was going to add just an interesting thing. Big 12 did come out last Thursday and admit that was a bad no call against Drake Stoops in the end zone toward the end of the game up in Stillwater. They basically said, "Oh yeah, we missed that one. Sorry." I don't know what else they could do.
There's not much you can do. That's pretty much same thing with in the SEC. If something happens with Arkansas, so it's after the fact, but the guys who called that ball game or whoever, whenever they grade the darn thing, they might not work the game this last week or this coming week, one of the two. So,
I will add, Jim, you will like this, being the SEC fan that you are of the SEC teams. Right. I don't know if you heard this or not. Drake Stoops did score a touchdown. He scored more than one, but on one of his touchdowns, he was in front of the official and spiked the ball right in front of him. And the official threw the flag, unsportsmanlike.
Right.
And the cameras zoomed in on Drake, to see his reaction, and it was an eye roll as he looked at the official.
Mm.
And it was almost like yeah, buddy, I remember last week whenever you didn't make the call on me, and
Yeah.
this time I scored anyway. And you'll get a kick out of this when the flag come out. Something I never thought I would hear from the Palace on the Prairie in Norman, but large chants around the stadium of SEC, SEC, directed straight down the field toward the officiating crew.
Well, there are, like I said, there's going to be probably 3 or 4 Oklahoma officials that are in the Big 12 that are being looked at, and they will be joining the Southeastern Conference officiating crews, because they're going to have to get at least 2 more crews for next year, because Texas and OU is coming into the SEC,
Right.
and I don't know who the supervisor of officials is now as far as the SEC is concerned. Back a few years ago, it was Steve Shaw. Well, Steve Shaw no longer is calling because he was one of the best, if not the best, white hat out there. Called the Rose Bowl and a few other big ball games. Became the supervisor of officials, but now he is the secretary editor of the rule book. He works for the NCAA now. So,
very good.
He's still very well respected around all the leagues because he does write the rule book, and they have got him and several other people that write the rule book every year, or every 2 years. I know basketball, they write the book every 2 years, and I think they're done with it this year, I think, but I'd have to look. But hopefully that will change come next year as far as the men's book's concerned. And I'd like to see get away from 2 20-minute halves and go to 4 10s, just like the women do, and get away from the 1 and 1. And it would speed up the game. Let's put it that way.
It would. It would.
Talking about the other ball clubs, Oklahoma State went down to Orlando and laid an egg big time.
Boy, were they hung over from the OU win, or what happened?
I don't know what, but Gundy said after the ball game, he said, we just played terrible. There was 3 big plays that just put them behind the 8 ball, and he admitted he got out coached by Gus Malzahn, and Malzahn probably had his stock move up, because we're going to talk about a few things here later on. But 45-3 down in Orlando, and now Cowboys have got to go on the road again. They got to face Dana Holgorsen and the Houston Cougars down in Houston Saturday. That game is a 3:00 kickoff. ESPN2 has the ball game. ESPN has the OU game on Saturday out in Provo. Have not seen who is doing the ball game as of yet. I'll look at that here shortly, but they've got to get off the deck, win that ball game, and then they've got BYU coming to Stillwater next week, so to close out the season. So OSU still has the tiebreaker.
They do,
but they got to win the last 2. And I messaged Jeff Metters on Facebook. I said, it could still come down if they win the last 2. It could be Burnt Orange against America's Brightest Orange down.
Very well could be
in Arlington. come the first Saturday in December. But Texas still has to take care of business. They've got a 1-game lead, but it's going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
what happens because they've got to go to Ames Saturday.
And Jim, I didn't know if you had heard this or not. Their good running back, Jonathan Brooks, is out for the season.
Yep, he's out for the year. He blew out his ACL. Saw
Yep.
that. But Quinn Ewers played last week at
Mm-hmm.
quarterback, so he's back. The only thing was they nearly blew a 20-point lead in Fort Worth. They win 29-26, but the one thing Texas has got to do is they've got to go take care of business in Ames. If they do
Yeah,
that, they're assured of being in Arlington come
they will.
first
If they
Saturday.
do that, they'll be fine. Now, Ames up in or Iowa State, they pretty much walked all over the top and did whatever they wanted to do to BYU here at Provo last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
BYU's had a lot of struggles with their offense this year, especially.
They've
And
been hurt and quarterbacks
mhm.
out. And in fact they lost him probably after the Arkansas game.
Yeah, it was several weeks ago. He's been out, so they've been struggling a lot. It's got some of the fans here a little disgruntled, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
with Coach Sataki. So I think the buzz I'm hearing around town is, man, we really like him. He's a nice guy, but we got to win, and we got to get. And our team just doesn't look good. They're not ready for the big time,
Mm-hmm.
like we thought they would be.
Well, that's something that Arkansas is hearing right now. I mean, they went out and played horrible against Auburn Saturday at home, and they got shellacked 48-10.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn scores first drive and then held Arkansas. They punted, and then a guy takes it out the gate on a punt return, and it went from literally from bad to worse. And finally pulled KJ in the fourth quarter, put the young guy in. They scored. They threw a pass to Tesla late, but ball game was already over. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people screaming and hollering about, they need to uh, make a coaching change. Well, Hunter Yurichek, the AD, he said Wednesday in a function there in Springdale that Sam would be the coach next year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to wait and see. He wasn't there to, he wasn't planning on the guys laying an egg like they did against Auburn, and they played terrible. And I was talking with uh, Chad Pendergraft, and he's about as big a Arkansas fan as I am. And I told him, I said, the biggest problem is Arkansas's hurt, and a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, you take a look how many guys are on the shelf. I mean, my gosh, they lost Luke Hass in the A&M game, their good tight end. They lost him for the year with a broken collarbone. And then there's several guys in the line that have been out. And he's got a bunch of guys on the sidelines in street clothes. That's probably ones and possibly even twos. And he really doesn't want to throw a bunch of kids out there that's not ready to go out there and throw them to the wolves. Now, true, they got Florida International Saturday at home, a Saturday night game at 6:30 there at Razorback Stadium, non-conference game. They might play some young ones. I don't know, because you can play up to 4 ball games and not burn your red shirt now.
Right.
So this one might be one of those games that they take a look, maybe second half, and see what the youngins can do if they can get out to to a pretty good lead.
Yeah, that would be good. It's interesting you brought that up about the red shirt. Just going back to Oklahoma for a second. Several of the fans were frustrated because late in the game they put in Davis Bevel, who is the third string quarterback, and not Jackson Arnold,
Mm-hmm.
who is scheduled to replace. But it was for that very reason. They're trying to protect his red shirt. So
Right.
unless Gabriel goes down, we won't see Arnold the
Right.
rest of the year.
And now they can play him in the bowl
In
game
the bowl.
because the bowl
Mhm.
game does not count.
Right, right. So we'll hope we see him in the bowl game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully not due to a Gabriel
Somebody,
injury, but
or somebody opting out. That's
yeah,
the other thing. So,
yeah, but yeah, yeah. There's all those rules that a lot of people. I mentioned last week the couch coaches. They, complaining. Why don't we put Arnold in? Well, that's why we
yeah,
don't want to burn that red shirt.
right. And that's the other reason they're at Arkansas too. So
Hmm.
Arkansas now out of a chance for a bowl game because the best they can do is 5-7. Same way with the University of Tulsa. Golden Hurricane had a chance to tie the ball game, 2-point conversion missed, got beat 24-22 against Tulane, and they gave Tulane all they wanted down in New Orleans.
Sure
So,
did. I thought I saw a little bit of that game early. Thought Tulsa had a good game plan.
mm-hmm.
They executed well, and like you said, Tulane has gotten to be a pretty decent ball club,
They
and
have.
I thought Tulsa played really well. I know the players and coaches don't like moral victories, but
Yeah,
if you had a moral victory, I would say it went to Tulsa
it
for
did.
sure.
It really did. And they're home at senior day at Skelly Stadium. They take on the Mean Green of North Texas, a new member of the American Athletic Conference. And it's a 2 o'clock kickoff there at 11th and Florence there in Tulsa. And game is going to be digital, so it'll be on ESPN Plus, so you can watch that game on the internet. And then they finish the year on the road. They got to go to East Carolina to finish up
Mhm.
the season. And Arkansas, they finish up next Friday. That's a game will be on CBS. I'm working that game in the production truck. I'm doing specialty stats. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff. And the next to last regular season game of the SEC on CBS. And
Wow.
the contract ends when they play the SEC title game, which it will be again Georgia against Alabama at Mercedes Benz in Atlanta. So that'll be the last game you'll see Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson calling an SEC game down there in Atlanta. And then they will go and start calling the Big Ten next year.
Mhm.
And all the SEC games will be under the ESPN umbrella. So that means ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, the SEC network, and ABC. So those five networks will cover the SEC come next year. And so I might, I know I've done 3 games this year over there as far as with ESPN. That might be the limit of how many games you get. I'm not real sure, but I did not get last week's game, didn't get the game this week, but I know I'm working with CBS on
Interesting.
Saturday, next Friday. I do know basketball. I'm already down for official stats on the 29th, the SEC ACC Challenge,
Hmm.
and it is Arkansas against Duke
Ooh,
at the
that'll be a
Bud.
good one.
At the Bud, I'm doing official stats, which that means in basketball, I'm doing a play-by-play back either to Charlotte or to the mothership, to Bristol, and did that last year on the Arkansas OU game at the BOK.
Hmm.
I got, in fact, I was talking to Bradley during the first media timeout. I was directly behind the OU bench and behind Toby Rowland, who was broadcasting the ball game for OU. And I asked him, I said, how am I doing? And he said, you're doing fine. If you don't hear me hollering at you, you're doing okay. Then he says, oh, by the way, has anybody told you sound like Vern Lundquist? I said, that in all the games I have done, and I've done, I've done Tahlequah,
Lot.
I've done
Mm-hmm.
Sequoyah,
Mm-hmm.
done uh, Keys for a couple of games and in the playoffs, and did UA Fort Smith, and then Van Buren when I quit doing Sequoyah, and 50 state tournament games, 13 of them being state championship games, all with Sequoyah, and then one game for Van Buren in the state tournament over in Arkansas. That was the first time anybody had said that I sounded like Uncle Vern.
That's funny.
Yeah, it really was. And in fact, I've got his book uh, in my room. I've read a few chapters of it. I haven't read the whole thing, but bought it in Tulsa at Barnes and Noble, and I asked the guy if they had it, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want the regular book or you want the signed one?" I said, "How much more is the signed one?" And he looked at it and he said, "Not anything extra." I said, "Give me the signed one."
The sign one every time.
Every time, and so I've got a signed book that Vern wrote a few years ago with him signing it. So it's
That's
it's a
great.
good book. It really is. I mean, tells about how he got started, and which he broadcasted the Dallas Cowboys. He was the radio voice until he went to work for CBS.
Hmm.
So,
How fun.
on to the home front. The Redmen, the
Mm.
season ended on Saturday in Topeka as they lost to the Washburn Ichabods 45-14. They wind up 1-10, and unfortunately found this out today. In fact, that head coach J.J. Eckert's contract will not be renewed for next year. He was told this on Tuesday by John Sizemore, the athletic director there at Northeastern, that he would not be retained for the 24 season. It's just a case of, not winning enough. And when you're in the SEC of Division II, better known
Mm-hmm.
as the MIAA, and the facilities are not up to snuff compared to everybody else in the league.
Yep.
Uh, it's really a tough row to hoe. And everybody, thinks, that the coaches get multi-year contracts, not in Oklahoma, in the small schools. It is year by year. In fact, I would say John is probably on a year by year contract as the
Mm-hmm.
athletic director at Northeastern. I'm not real sure about that, but I'd almost bet on it. But they have begun looking for a new head football coach there at Northeastern. But the biggest thing, and John and I talked about it Saturday night. I got roped into doing the PA for the basketball games up there. They had the Central Region uh, Challenge with Northwestern, UCO, University of Mary from Bismarck, North Dakota came down,
Hmm.
and us. And I was doing the PA for the Northeastern game Saturday night, and John and I talked between ball games, what uh, was going to happen as far as facilities was concerned, what he had on tap as far as trying to upgrade, because a former softball coach, Clay Davis, had told me that they were talking about doing upgrades at Northeastern. And we got to find somebody or some people that will write some big checks.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost to upgrade Gable Field, Doc Wadley Stadium, to get it to where we need to have it. And you got to realize that Gable Field next year will be 60 years old and nothing's been done as far as how the facility looks,
Mm-hmm. That's
except for the
right.
turf.
Right.
The price tag that John shot at me was just for football alone, and probably a good indoor facility, but other than the bubble, we're looking at $35 million, and total of the whole facilities, all five. When we're talking football, the event center, which needs HVAC work badly
Mm-hmm.
because they cut so many corners when they built the thing. Scoreboard.
That thing's only about 7 years old, isn't it?
No, it's older than that.
Is it?
Kenny was the head coach, and it's been about at least 10 now. Kenny got let go the night they opened the place.
Oh, really?
And that's also the last time Northeastern beat UCO. And
That would
in
have been
the
in
President's
20.
Cup game.
That would have been in 2015, right?
Uh, yeah, about right in there. So it's about 8, 9 years old. But they cut so many corners when they built it. So on the inside, the outside looks good, but the inside, the insulation, you can hear each other in the office next door. The HVAC is terrible, not only in the offices but inside the seating area, the playing area. Uh, that's something that's got to be addressed. Scoreboard's got to be addressed. I mean, everywhere. Football needs to be redone.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball's got the cheapest thing they got. It's the worst scoreboard company out there, and that come from a friend of mine out in Hawaii because I took a picture of it. Baseball needs a new board. Football, softball, soccer, everybody, all five,
Everything.
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 And you're looking at scoreboard wise alone, you're having to probably fork over somewhere between all five facilities. You're probably looking at probably somewhere in the 2 million to $2.5 million, because football is going to be the most expensive, because you're going to have a video board as well, new play clocks. Basketball needs 2 new boards, with one of them being as I call it, an all-in-one. You have the scoreboard, video board. Get rid of the video board that's above the court. They really don't need that if you get the all-in-one. And I've seen one that I would love to see them get that's over at Rogers Heritage in Arkansas. And it's made by a sign company out of Little Rock. It's not a name brand board, but the company is called Ace Sports. It's a sign company based out of Little Rock. They've got boards at UALR at Jack Stevens Arena, where the Trojans play basketball there in Little Rock. And I talked to the AD at Rogers Heritage for the whole setup that they had. It set them back $250,000, and that was about 4 years ago. It was, fact, it was the year of COVID. It was 2020.
2020.
When I talked
So
to
that wouldn't surprise me if it's went up.
Oh yeah, it's probably
quite a
went up
bit.
to probably, if you do it now, you're probably looking at 350, 400
It's kind of
easy.
what I was thinking,
Yeah.
almost, because everything's pretty much went up double.
Oh yeah.
Talking about Gable Field. Now, with the exception of the turf, and I know they added the video board many years ago.
Right.
It's been several years ago now, but when I go back to Gable Field and I walk up in the stands, I look at the concession stands, I walk up those ramps, I look at, it looks like it did in the early 1980s, 1980, 81, 82, 83, when I was in high school.
Yeah. And I
It
was at
hasn't changed.
Northeastern, and I was at Northeastern in the sports information office back
Yeah,
then
and
as a
and that's
student.
been 40 plus years ago at least, that since that's had an upgrade of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
It's desperately needed. And going back to JJ, kind of feel for him. Local kid, NSU kid,
Mm-hmm.
dad was a fabulous coach
Right.
there, good pedigree. I think everybody, I mean, obviously he's the local favorite.
Right.
Everybody wanted him to succeed. Uh, and I mean, everybody wanted him to succeed in that
Mm-hmm.
role. Disappointed to see it going, to see what happened and him not winning. In a lot of ways, his hands are tied.
Yeah, it is.
These kids coming out of high school now, you can't have a stadium and locker room and workout facilities that are 30, 40, 50 years old even.
Yeah. And this is the problem that we've got. And my grandpa, mom's dad, John Wolf, he was a carpenter. He helped build that stadium. He helped build several buildings on that campus, uh, dorms, etc. And that was opened in 1964. And you talk about Tom Eckert.
Mm-hmm.
He threw the first touchdown in that northeast corner of the end zone to Kent Lashley.
Wow.
And
Wow.
there's a picture, they got a picture of Kent catching the pass against Panhandle back in 1964. And, you know, Tom was a left-handed quarterback. Tom threw left-handed. I mean, he was our answer to Kenny Stabler, because
Mm-hmm.
Stabler was playing at that time for some
Mm-hmm.
guy by the name of Bear Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 60 years ago, next late September, early October, whenever they opened that place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got to be uh, a lot of things addressed. The biggest thing is probably have to bring the thing down and just start over.
I would. It needs to be
Yeah,
brought down.
yeah, and,
Honestly,
yeah.
it'd be
But
easier. I mean, when you have high school stadiums, and we're not even talking the big names like Owasso and Union and Broken Arrow, but the high school stadiums look better
yeah, yeah, that's the
than
big
that.
thing right there. And Union redid theirs. They tore their
Mm-hmm.
west side down and rebuilt it. I have not been in it, and I know Emily Barkley. That's Justin's wife, who's the AD there. And I would like to see the press box, because I remember the press box that I sat in 1984 when I covered
Mm-hmm.
Union for the Broken Arrow Ledger. So yeah, it's a
I mean,
lot different.
you've got some of those kids from some of these high schools, and they graduate high school and go to Northeastern. The
Mm.
facilities are a step down than what they had.
Oh, 2 steps down or
Yep.
more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, talking about high school, well, we've only got one high school left in the
Yeah.
playoffs, Tahlequah went to Putman City, lost 41-21 to the Putman City Pirates. So they end the season at 3-8 and now leave Class 6A Division II and get back to where they belong, and that is Class 5A next season.
Good. That's a
know
relief.
the three non-district games, but the new district, it'll be District 5A4, and they'll see Booker T, Claremore, Collinsville, Grove, Tulsa Memorial, Pryor, and Tulsa Rogers.
Getting back to some names we recognize again, aren't we?
So. Yeah. Like I say, I don't know who the 3 non-district games will be. Hopefully they can keep Sallisaw on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Do you try to get Wagner on the schedule again? Do you really want to play Muskogee again? That's a gate game, but you look around and your pickings are kind of slim.
Mm-hmm. What class is Coweta in now?
Coweta's in 5A. They're in the other district.
In the other one, okay.
So they would, they could be one. If worse comes to worse, you get somebody over in Arkansas. You get Springdale Harbor, Rogers Heritage, Bentonville West. That would be the 5 that I would talk about. I would not want to play Fayetteville, and I would not want to play Bentonville. Nor would I want to play Northside or Southside.
No, but getting over around Rogers, some of those, I got to make a trip over there many years ago for a game, and it was kind of fun going to watch Tahlequah play over there.
Now, Rogers Heritage plays at the old Rogers High School. That is now Rogers Heritage. Rogers High is a new school, and they've got a new football stadium that I've called a game at, and it is nice. I mean, they got a press box. You got an elevator up to the press box. They even, believe it or not, they even feed you.
Wow, that's like college level there.
Yeah, and the press, the broadcast booth that I was in for visitors, I was doing Van Buren one night. You had plenty of room. I mean, this is when Dad was still around, and he went with me, and we were like, "Holy cow!" This had a small refrigerator in there, had water in there for us, and it was nice. I mean, it's one that people need to look at their facility over there. If they're going to build a press box, take a look at that, and it was first class all the way around. And that's where, in fact, we talked about Kenny Evans, who was the former head coach at Northeastern, my classmate at Warner. He spent the last 5 years over at Rogers. Last year he was teaching, didn't coach in his final year over there, but he was their defense coordinator for 4 years, coaching under Mike Lloyd. Both of them have retired from coaching. But the only team left, well, it's the Sequoyah Indians. They had to hold off a 2-point conversion and defeated the Heavener Wolves 30-28 out at Thompson Field Friday night. And now they got to go to Kiefer and take on the Kiefer Trojans in the second round of the playoffs. And Kiefer is undefeated
Mm.
We are 11-0.
Ouch.
Uh, they will take on them, and if the Indians spring the upset, they better hope that Kingston defeats Alva in the second round, because that way the game would be, the third round would be out here at Thompson Field, because Kingston will have hosted 2 ball games because they're the district champions out of their district. If the Alva Gold Bugs defeat Kingston, then Sequoyah would have to go all the way out to Alva
Oh,
and
that's a
play.
long way from Tahlequah.
I have been there when
Ooh.
Northeastern played Northwestern, and you get off of I-35 just west of Blackwell and hit Highway 11. And let me tell you right now, the guy who was the engineer of that road, he was not drunk. It is as straight a road that I have ever seen, Randy Gibson.
It is one of those, I swear, you could set your cruise control and practically take a nap.
Let's put it this way. When we went out there, we saw a lot of wheat fields and pheasants.
Yep, pretty much. It's about
And
all there is out there, I think.
pretty much, you go by the Great Salt Plains. I know that. And about 5 miles outside of Alva, there is a little kink in the road before you get into Alva itself. Now, I think Alva High School has their own field. I don't think they play at Northwestern, so I'm not real sure about that. But hopefully we don't have to do that. Hopefully they spring the upset and Kingston wins, and because Alva's got to go all the way down in the southeastern part of the state to play Kingston in the second
Wow.
round. So that's
Well,
a
let's
long,
hope
long
that
haul
doesn't happen.
for them.
Yeah, it is. Much rather have the Indians back at Thompson Field.
Yes. Yeah. Well, basketball started for NSU. The Redmond and Lady Reds played at home against Northwestern and University of Mary Friday and Saturday night. Both of them split. The Lady Reds lost the opener 58-48 to Northwestern, and then defeated the Marauders in the game on Saturday, and that gave Keith Ferguson, the new head coach of the Lady Reds, his first win at Northeastern. And they'll be back home. Both teams are home Wednesday night. It's the Native American game against Haskell from Lawrence,
Very
Kansas.
good. Very good.
The Nike N7 game. So that'll be one of the things they've got going up there. In fact, they're having beans and cornbread at 5:00 in the community center up in the north end of the special events center. And then the game, girls are at 6 and the guys are right after that at 8:00. So the guys defeated Northwestern, then got beat at the buzzer by University of Mary 63-61. They had to look at it, make sure the shot was before the light came on, and it was. And the clock ran out whenever the ball went into the bucket, and the game was over, and NSU fell 63-61. So they've got a game Wednesday night at home, and then they got a game again on Saturday. Then Monday night they've got one against University of the Ozarks, and that's a men's game only. That'll be a 7 o'clock tip on Monday night before the holiday. So, well, let's talk about what the heck's been happening in the coaching world.
Oh my gosh, JJ
I
was.
mean, the A bombs have already started.
Yes, they have.
They started off in College Station as they decided to part ways with Jimbo Fisher and swallow a huge buyout to the tune of $76 million. And who in their right mind would put a contract that big out? I don't know.
I don't know.
Guy who's the AD there now, he was not the guy that pulled the trigger on that thing a couple of years ago.
Man.
But it's going to be interesting to see who in the world they get down in College Station.
It is.
I'll tell you one name that I already have heard on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Coach O.
Really?
Ed Ogeron.
That would be very interesting.
Think about that one. Him going to College Station, coming back in the SEC.
As you used to say about from the old '60s show, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Artie Johnson. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yep.
I kind of like to see. Honestly, even though I like Coach O, I'd like to see him back. I'd like to see him back in there. It'd be fun.
I would too. You know, which then I saw a clip today from ESPN and a guy who I'm not fond of, Stephen A.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying Deion. No, Deion's going to stay in Colorado.
Let Deion stay in Colorado and bring his
show to the Big 12.
His show to the Big 12. The Big 12 needs his show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, but they do.
And
with Oklahoma, Texas leaving, they need some entertainment, and I think Deion can bring it.
Yeah. Oh, there is no doubt. They lost on a last-second field goal, and they're like Tulsa and Arkansas. They are not going to go bowling this year. But you gotta say hats off to him because they've done more than what people thought they were going to do.
Yeah. Started off with a bang.
Yeah, started off with a bang, 3-0, and then they fell on hard times, but now they've got to go. They got to go to Pullman Friday night. That's going to be a Fox game. Late. Don't know who gets that game. That might be Timmy B and Spencer doing that ball game. I don't know. Then they got to come to Salt Lake City.
Yep. Take on the Utes. Take on the Utes and the Utah's pig farmer quarterback.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Then a guy who you're familiar with his father and his two uncles, Zach Selman, son of Dewey Selman. He's the athletic director at Mississippi State. He pulled the trigger today and got rid of Zach Arnett, the first-year head coach down there at Mississippi State. So the fit was not.
He only made it 1 year down there, didn't he? Yeah, 1 year.
Didn't even make it.
Didn't even get through the year.
Nope. So it'd be interesting to see who they pull out of the hat down in Starkville. So
very interesting.
Then Harbaugh served at least one game in the cooler.
Yep.
Whether or not they get the restraining order remains to be seen.
Don't look for Harbaugh to be at Michigan next year.
I don't either. I look for him to be in the NFL next year.
I do too. I look for him to be on an NFL sideline next year.
Can you say the Chicago Bears?
It's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So that'll be yet to be seen. Next week's the big game at the Big House against the Ohio State against, as they call them, the team up north.
Yep, exactly.
I've got three guys that are big Ohio State guys. Larry and Randy Gibson and a guy by the name of Jim Madison out at the golf course. Madison, how bad does he hate Michigan? He says, and I will say it on here, he'd rather have a sister in a whorehouse than a brother in Michigan. That's how bad Ohio people in Ohio hate the maize and blue. That's
wow.
They despise Michigan. Now they can tolerate Michigan State, but Michigan, that's they will not use the letter M all week. I mean, there's a big red X through the M in anything. So, but yeah, the football season nearly coming to an end, and basketball just now getting started. Big games, Kentucky and KU this week. In fact, I think
that's a big one coming up.
That is huge. Big the Jayhawks against Big Blue Nation, and that is in Lexington. And Rupp Arena, been in there one time. There for a sports information director's workshop in Lexington, and the UK sports information director at the time asked us, said, would you like to go in there? They raised the garage doors up, and you look inside there, and as my friend up at Springfield, Missouri, Mark Stillwell, who was then he's now the sports information director emeritus at, I still call it Southwest Missouri, Missouri State. I said, this is one big place. And he said, you can put a lot of hay in this barn. And it'll seat 22,000 people.
Wow, that's big.
You look up and you see all the championship banners, the retired numbers, and the microphone for the great Kaywood Ledford, who was the broadcaster for many, many years of the Wildcats, and also did the NCAA tournament games, the Final Four. And he was one of the best in his career.
He was.
Well, next week, we'll talk about the final week of the 2023 college football regular season. Look at how the conference championship games could roll out, and who could be in the championship four. And it could get very interesting next week.
Next week's going to tell a lot after that game against Ohio State and that team up north.
Yeah, that will eliminate one of them.
Yes, it will.
Then you look at 2 weeks from then with Georgia and Alabama. could Washington or Oregon slip into one of those 4 spots?
Very interesting. I don't think Texas would make it in at this point.
No, not right now. I think a lot of things would have to fall in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't. I'm like you. I can't see it.
Can't see it right now.
No, no.
If the path stays the same, they'll be playing OSU, and that wouldn't be a very good win.
No, and then,
Really.
unless Washington State beats Washington, Oregon State beats Oregon in the 2 rivalry games,
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, also we'll talk about the Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
And some guy by the name of Bo Nix is starting
Yep.
now to could be the favorite.
He could be.
If he has 2 more good ball games.
Yep. Yeah, and he did a good job against USC.
Yeah, he did. He did. Well, that will do it for this week's Cover 4 podcast. And like I say, next week we'll hash everything out, and hopefully we're talking about 1 more week of high school football, but we'll just have to see what happens. From a partner out in Provo, Randy Gibson, I'm Jim Trickett. Thanks a lot for watching the Cover 4 podcast. We'll see you next week. So long, everybody.